Hello guys, James here. Um, I'm gonna get back to this one thing about affirmative action. And you remember they had these people who were out there, and they came from the Asian community, and they were protesting about, you know, because it is discriminated against them, and really, it was supposed to kind of take a dig at people that they thought it was going to hurt, and that's because of affirmative action. They probably thought some of them thought that it was going to affect black people, and I'm going to show you this video. But I got a surprise for you about what's happening in China, and how does it connect to Asian businesses in America. The Chinese is taking a hit, and I'm gonna show you after these two videos that what they've been doing in China is crazy, man. It's crazy that even their own people are suffering. They're gonna be in the same condition that it's the remote parts of Latin America and Africa. They're about to live it right now, and I'm going to show you why. Remember this video, but remember the young man, and then it was this other woman that was like hooray, and she was a Chinese descendant of an immigrant. I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna take the short clip, then I'm gonna take you to them videos. I'm playing a little bit. I think I played her video before, but I'm playing just a little bit of it. And Phil's video, and I'm gonna take you straight to the video. What's going to happen to the Asian community in America? Because the imports that they get from China is going to affect the family businesses here. That's why I said when they came.
All these other people were in the background cooking rice and ironing shirts, and they seemed satisfied until black Americans started making progress. And then the Congress came up with a policy called affirmative action that is supposed to eliminate discrimination in jobs and in education. They put this in place supposedly for black people who have been shut out of employment and educational opportunities. But what we know is that white women have benefited from affirmative action more than anybody. But when these Asians get ready to go to court, they always claim that black people got something that they were supposed to have. So the minute that the country decided they were going to do something to correct what had happened to black people, then the Asians jumped in it. They found out that white people were going to use test scores to keep black people out. So America, I say white people, we're not talking about all white people, we're talking about the ones who make these decisions. They decided, well, the best way to keep black people out is to give an irrelevant test that nobody can pass, or few people can pass, without cheating. Now, this test was designed back in the 1920s. That was like a test to test. But they didn't start using that test until black students started going to school with white students after Brown v. Board of Education. That's when the Supreme Court ruled segregated schools in America to be unlawful. So they already had this test ready. So when black students started trying to enroll in these PWIs, predominantly white colleges, they threw that test on them, the SAT and the ACT test. Even then, the Educational Testing Service, the ones who create the test, have said over and over again that these tests don't measure anything meaningful, but they use them to discriminate against black people and say, you can't pass the test, so you can't get in Harvard or Yale or Princeton or Cornell or any other university that they didn't want us in. So So white students who were labeled superior and the smartest in the country were automatically expected to pass these tests. But black students were labeled dumb and too stupid to pass the test. The Asians, on the other hand, oh, they've just been all about the books, all about the test scores. Well, somebody says they cheat too. I don't know. I've never seen it. I don't know. But they have been given honorary genius status by white people who measure them against black people, not against white people. So Asians know that whenever they gripe or complain, it has to be about black people, not about white people. But they did come up with affirmative action, which says that you have to give black people a chance, or you have to have some set-asides for black people, however that works. So black people have a small population in these Ivy League schools, and I want to make sure that we understand that some black students are outstanding academic students and can compete with anybody, white, Asian, or otherwise. But whenever an Asian does not get into the school of their choice, their go-to is to start complaining that a black person got in, any black person, they don't even know what the black students' test scores are. They just assume, based on the stereotypes that white America has put in place, they just assume that a black student would be too stupid to pass a test to get into Harvard or whatever the school is. So white America has set them up by calling them model minorities. And what that means is they keep their heads down, they shut their mouths, and they don't challenge anything that the white power structure says or does, even to them. And so now they feel themselves in an elevated position against other minorities, including black people, especially black people. So they think they're supposed to get all of the slots that black students get in these elite colleges. And if they don't, they're going to run to the Supreme Court. Black people got my slot. The black people got my slot. Affirmative action. Affirmative action. They're always whining about not being able to get in college, and they always blame it on black people. Now, these conservative white groups are backing them and egging them on and pushing them up to do that for two reasons. Number one, to cause a division between black Americans and Asians, but also to keep the spotlight off the real problem, which is that who is really taking up those slots in those colleges are these white students who are legacies, whose daddies and granddaddies and great-great-granddaddies and great-great-great-granddaddies all the way back to the Mayflower went to those schools, and those students are going to get top priority. I don't care what Asians make on the test. So more than a third of the students in those elite institutions are legacies, and that is not going to change. And then they have international students. They have African Americans, they have Hispanics, they have students with unique kinds of talents. They might not be academically gifted, but they might be gifted in music or art, or they may have some other kind of specialty. And they want a diverse population in those schools. They don't want just Asians and white people in those schools. And they have made that clear. And when I said that the Asians are going to be responsible for these colleges doing away with these test scores, is really true. Many of these Ivy League schools and these elite colleges have done away with these test requirements because they're not going to be dictated to by Asians about who they're going to admit into their colleges. This headline says more than 80% of four-year colleges won't require standardized tests for fall 2023 admissions. So they've already set it off. So this year's Supreme Court case is about this guy named John Wayne. He's an Asian American, and he claims that affirmative action is to blame for his recent rejections from top-tier colleges and universities across the United States. However, the law, which impacts admissions of at least one of those colleges, prevents racial preference when considering students. See? So the race didn't have anything to do with that. They just didn't want him. So this John Wayne is 18 of Florida, and he told Fox News that he applied to MIT, Caltech, Princeton, Harvard, Carnegie Mellon, and University of California, Berkeley, but was rejected by each of them. His parents are Chinese immigrants, and he argues that his Asian American heritage worked against him in his application process thanks to affirmative action policies. However, one of the colleges that Wayne was denied by has published reports which show that it may not be the case. He is one of the plaintiffs that has filed suit against Harvard University and the University of North Carolina over affirmative action, and the cases are expected to be decided by the Supreme Court late this month. The Harvard and UNC cases have been separated into two separate decisions since one institution is public, the University of North Carolina, and one is private, which is Harvard. The University of North Carolina's case will consider whether the school was unwilling to adopt a race-neutral alternative to affirmative action. The case against Harvard will determine if the university was in violation of the Civil Rights Act by discriminating against Asian American applicants. So the Supreme Court has already told the Asians that black students are not preventing them from getting into Harvard. And so I don't know, I'm not sure why they keep filing these lawsuits. But all they're going to do is make these people mad, and they're going to do what I said they're going to do. They're going to do away with the test scores. Now what? Now what are you going to fight with? And this argument that they need to make their admissions race neutral sounds like they're saying that they shouldn't let any black people in. They should consider race, because now, for whatever reason, they think that black people are getting some special consideration because we're black. They're fighting a battle that they will ultimately lose, I believe. These colleges are going to make a decision about who they want in their schools, and all the Asians are going to do is make these people mad. They have 14% at Harvard. That is probably more than how they're represented in the society. So that's probably all they're going to get, and all they're going to end up doing is have these colleges making laws that will make it harder for them to get in and not easier, because test scores don't measure anything meaningful. At the end of the day, you have to go into those classes and do the work. And that's what should determine whether or not you are a good student or whether or not you should be there. Not on a test score that you likely cheated on, but what you actually do when you go into those classes. And back to this race-neutral policy, what does that even mean? What does that even mean? So, as far as the University of North Carolina is concerned, they're not going to adopt a race-neutral policy. He needs to look at who's on the University of North Carolina's football and basketball teams. Asians can't play no football and basketball. Those sports teams generate a lot of revenue for those schools. And I'll just throw this in too. Asians also can't sing and they can't dance. So black people add a lot of flavor to the school. Black people are well-rounded. We're not a one-trick pony. Black people can do all of it, including pass tests, graduate, and master any job that they take on.
But not like they do with black people. They make sure to have all kind of business in the black community. Matter of fact, they cook food they won't even eat themselves. They won't even eat it. They even admit, or you listen to TikTok, they say, oh no, we don't eat the food that we serve y'all. We cook the good food at home. We give y'all the trash food. And you wonder why black folks that be, cause I always think it's strange, because let's call it what it is. Have some of y'all been in them spots where you go in there and you get some food, and I mean, they literally giving you 2 pounds of food for $8. You're like, my God, you ain't got no problem giving away all this food. I'm like, what's in this food that you ain't got no problem stacking it so heavy that the freaking styrofoam thing won't close? Come on now, now at one point in time I'm thinking, oh my God, man, that's a great deal. I love coming to this Chinese spot. They ain't giving you so much food. But then you start thinking about it, like, what are they really giving us? Why you have no problem piling that much food on them? Why? And why is it always so cheap? To say you're giving this, because You should be charging double how much you give it, the food you give it. I'm just keeping it 100. They don't hire black people when they in the black community. You would think they would say, okay, we in the black community, we need to have black employees. There's a few videos here and there where I've seen them, black employees, but they so far and few in between. Then that hurry up and buy thing, or whatever. They go into they go into beauty supply, hurry up and buy. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? But as long as black people are silly, they keep going to those places. They will keep telling you hurry up and buy. See, black folks, I always tell people the greatest retaliation is economic. Not getting in the street doing anything. No. You don't have to get in the street and do a thing. You don't have to break a law, because listen, we've done enough of that street stuff. And what has it really produced? Nothing. The best things that I've seen done was, if you want to talk about the 1960s, was the strong economic boycotts and making them last until you make them change laws. Like the Montgomery bus boycott. They didn't get on them buses for over a year, and they changed the whole law at the federal level so black folks don't have to go in the back of the bus. Why can't we do that today? Say, oh, you treating us this way? Okay, we banning you for a year. Nobody go eat over there. Nobody shop over here for a year. Trust me, in a lot of locations, if black folks shut them down economically like that, they're done. Then they're going to be copping pleas. Well, it was them. It's not us. We had nothing to do with it. We don't feel that way. We support Black Lives Matter. I mean, come on, man. I mean, like I said, we're just poor business owners, and we just trying to stay in business, and we never had a problem. They'll be copping all kind of pleas if black people pull the money away. Same thing with them folks. If they scared, we talking about boycott. Oh, because anytime you mention boycott, why would you want to hurt other businesses for? I'm like, wait a minute, you're not entitled to our money. Who told you you're entitled to our money? If we want to keep our dollars in our pockets, if we want to do that, then we can do it. Period. Because during the pandemic, everybody was shopping Amazon or online shopping, staying out those restaurants completely, and a lot of restaurants went under because nobody was going to them restaurants. So it lets you know they are so dependent on you going to these restaurants, going to these businesses, that our power is in the dollar that we have. We just have to be responsible. The dollar is our weapon. It is a weapon that we can use against anybody. If a particular bank, for instance, well, and you identify a bank who's notorious, Wells Fargo. Let's identify them. Wells Fargo has been notorious of treating black people bad. What if black people nationwide in one day go close all their accounts at Wells Fargo? That would literally tank their stock, and that would send the markets into a frenzy that millions of people would close their accounts at Wells Fargo in one day. Trust me, they will be freaking out. The media will be freaking out. Why are these black people close their accounts for? What is going on? And then, they'll be freaking out. And the moment black people do it, then other groups of people are going to follow and say, oh, well, shoot, they doing it. Why they doing it? I'm closing mine too. Yep. That's usually how it goes. Yep. We take a lead, and everybody else follow.
Right.
We don't use our influence. We don't use our dollars strategically to either shut somebody down or to support somebody. We don't do that as we should. Because all the disrespect that we have coming toward our way, the hostility, we can literally clean that up overnight if we know how to be disciplined with our dollars and say, you know what, I'm not supporting you. It needs to be a backlash when people disrespect us like that. Now, the affirmative action thing, we did one about who's the biggest benefactor of that, and I'm not saying we should have a backlash because of affirmative action, because it needs to go away. It needs to, I got the clip of Dr. Claude Anderson talking about that, and I may, follow that back up with him saying that we don't need to focus on affirmative action no more. We need to focus on reparations and I think that's probably what because I need to follow something up with will say the Supreme Court that actually can help us with reparations. I think I followed it up tomorrow in the next podcast. But anybody that disrespects us, any corporation, anybody, any bank, we can literally fix these issues. But the bad part about it, you don't want to fix it until it gets so bad. See, the Supreme Court gonna have to unravel almost everything for you ready to make that kind of move. And what I like about what I'm talking about is that you don't have to break no crimes. They can't pull out their military gear on you. You're not gonna go to jail, keeping your money in your pocket. You're not gonna do anything. You're sitting in your house, and you have every right to close an account if we say, hey, that bank not treating us right. Let's get on out of there. It's just that simple. So the hostility that people have toward us, not just that group. You got some East Indians that got hostility toward us, which they consider Asians, right? You're going to see what's going to happen down the line with your friend, the white supremacists. You're going to see. And boy, I'm telling you right now, I can't wait till they stab you in the back. I can't wait. Because I'm going to be so petty. Ooh, y'all, I'm going to be so petty. I'm going to be petty. I'm going to throw that back in y'all face. I'm going to rub it in. I'm going to be talking about it every day. Because you sat up there and said that y'all got hostility toward the black Americans who never done you crap. But you got no hostility to the people that have harmed your homelands, destroyed your homeland, stole resources from your homeland. Use your people for cheap labor, paying them $1, $2 a day. No smoke for them. You want to team up with them and be an ally and assistant to try to harm black folk. So understand, every person that sides with the white supremacists like that against us, they always learn in the end. And y'all have to understand something. We are battle tested and battle tried, and we can endure to the end. We are built that way. We are the strongest people on the planet because we should have been wiped out a long time ago. You other groups, you're not built like that. You get pressed a little bit and you be on planes back to your homeland. I promise you would. You couldn't deal with a year of how black Americans are treated. You was getting it just a little bit during the pandemic and you was crying, talking about stop Asian hate, and you were losing your mind. That's been our treatment for hundreds of years, and you crying, you get a little bit of it. But what's going to happen if them folks really turn up the heat on y'all? You gonna fight? No, you're not. You're gonna run. That's exactly what you're gonna do. Because don't come this way, because you definitely can't get me to fight for you. And I'm gonna repeat myself again. An ally, an individual ally that has proven themselves to be helpful to the black community, who have called out their community for the anti-blackness. Oh, I'm cool with you at that point. I will fight for you as an individual. I'm always going to say that. I will fight for you as an individual. But I'm not fighting for your group. Nope. Because your group collectively don't like black people. And that's you can look at, I haven't found one group that have a collective love for black folk. I haven't. Everybody got something negative to say about black folk, and black folk haven't colonized them, haven't stolen their resources, haven't dropped atomic bombs on them, haven't done nothing to them. Nothing. But yet, we the hated ones. But, let's call it what it is. The scriptures teach that a telltale sign that you are the Lord's people is they will hate you without a cause. But y'all let me know what y'all think about.
But now I'm about to take you to what's happening over in China. And this is going to affect the ones that got relatives in China, and friends, and family. Watch this. There's different cities in China are going through this right now. Shanghai.
这个商场好冷清啊。
This is their malls.
这么大个商场，人都没一个。
This is where they get some of the imports at, and they come to American cities. Now their malls is not doing good.
店铺都空了。里面是空的，里面都是空的。哇去！ 难搞啊！现在的经济啊，
That's a mall.
一些小孩要到下面去踢球了。
Shanghai.
呵呵，空空荡荡的这个商场。
The whole
This is
mall.
a shopping mall located near the subway entrance of Jiaofeng Road in Shanghai. According to the photographer, this mall receives very few customers. It is surprisingly quiet. One by one, shops have been forced to close down, including the fresh produce supermarket. Even restaurants are empty. The fourth floor of the mall, which was originally planned to be a KTV, a karaoke TV, has had to close due to poor business.
国际出发这一块儿，这航站楼啊非常萧条，大家看一下，几乎绝大多数店全是关门的啊，超级搞笑。其实本来还以为这个旅游陆续都已经恢复了啊，估计可能国内是恢复了，但是国际的航班应该还是没有恢复到正常状态啊，这些店全关着，这些奢侈品店啊全部关门。
One Beijing resident reported that the commercial scene at Beijing's airport international departures is extremely bleak. With almost all the shops having gone out of business, including luxury boutiques, some of the seals on the stores show dates from October 26, 2022, which means many shops have been closed for over half a year. Now only Hermes remain open, along with one or two duty-free shops. The only options for food are KFC and Starbucks. The man added that he had seen news about many foreigners leaving China, and judging by the situation at Beijing airport, it seems true. He believes the main reasons for the slump in duty-free shopping are a significant drop in international travel and the current weak purchasing power. Another man who recorded a video of his visit to a shopping mall in Hankou Bay, Wuhan, found that nearly 70% of the physical stores had closed down. He believes that investing in shops for rent yield is generally a losing proposition. He disclosed that in the first half of this year, these shops in Hankou Bay were still open, but now almost all of them are closed, with only a few struggling to keep afloat. Yet another Guangzhou resident shared that since the Chinese New Year, particularly after the May Day holiday, there has been a wave of shop closure in the bustling old town of Guangzhou, some even shuttering en masse, which puzzled him. This resident said that logically, the economy should be improving and businesses thriving after the lifting of the pandemic restrictions. But for some unknown reason, the tide of store closure is growing stronger, and this trend isn't limited to Guangzhou. He heard from friends in Foshan that the situation is the same there. Shenzhen and Dongguan are experiencing even more severe closure waves, with some cities becoming ghost towns.
端午节本来计划端午节的话，店里会非常的忙，早上上班的话也来得非常早，但是到现在下午4点钟了还没有开张，真的是这个生意太超出了我的意外啊！把它看一下，现在一个人都没有，4点钟刚刚好，外面的行人也非常的少，不知道什么情况，端午节这人都去哪里了？
The 3-year pandemic and economic downturn have led to a slump in domestic demand. Consumers are unwilling to spend, and many physical stores have already been losing money throughout the pandemic. Struggling until the end of the pandemic and seeing no hope, they have chosen to close down. The wave of closure is not only affecting small brick-and-mortar stores. Recently, a number of large established supermarkets in Beijing, Shenzhen, Suzhou, Fuzhou, and other cities have not been spared. On June 24th, after nearly 15 years of operation, Beijing's Aeon International Shopping Mall announced its closure. Aeon Mall, located in Changping, Beijing, opened in November 2008. As the first shopping center of the Aeon Group in Beijing, it was once seen as the starting point for the development of large Japanese retail businesses in China. However, in the past year, Aeon have been gradually withdrawing from various parts of the country. Another Aeon supermarket located in Chaoyang Joy City, Beijing, had already closed in 2022. A Beijing netizen lamented, with large supermarkets closing one after another, the real economy is truly in decline. Another netizen said, it's somewhat sentimental. Before the pandemic, the place was crowded with people. During the pandemic, it was deserted, and after the pandemic, stores have been closing one by one. On June 12th, the popular supermarket Wushan Liangfang at Yuejiazui in Wuchang district of Wuhan City in Hubei province officially closed. June 11th was the last day of business with the shelves already cleared out. Large supermarket China Resources Vanguard Jiangxing Road store in Suzhou City of Jiangsu province also officially ceased business on June 15th, ending both online and offline services. This store was bustling with people when it first opened in January 2014, but those days are gone. The China Resources Vanguard Wanjia Pinghu store in Jiangxi City of Zhejiang Province also issued a notice of closure, ending online and offline services on June 10th. In the wave of supermarket closure in mainland China, Carrefour China has been gradually closing stores over the past 1 or 2 years. On June 10th, the first Carrefour store in Shenzhen and the second in China ceased operation. This 27-year-old store located in Nantou area of Nanshan has been a mainstay. The Carrefour Mailiandao store in Beijing and the Carrefour Fanyuan store located on Zhongguanchun South Street also posted closure notices. The Shanghai Chenshan Road membership store also suddenly ceased operations in May. In 2022,
Stop! Did you know thousands of Americans are piggybacking off an IRS program to collect it?
China has more than 50 suppliers out of Apple's more than 150 global suppliers, which involve thousands of companies and millions of upstream and downstream employees. Apple, as the top designer of an ecosystem, can change the fate of millions of workers in China with a single decision. Two opposing views have emerged on this issue. One is that Apple would be out of luck if it were to leave China. The other is that Apple and its largest foundry, Foxconn, have already said goodbye to China. What is the actual situation? How much have Apple and Foxconn scaled back their business in China? And how fast are they pulling out of China? In this episode, we will explore this topic with the help of data. It was midnight on June 9th, 2023, and a tense atmosphere prevailed at Foxconn's Guanlan factory in Shenzhen. Hundreds of Special Forces police and armed police officers quickly deployed in the factory. The Guanlan area used to be Foxconn's factory in Shenzhen. Inside the large conference hall, several hundred Foxconn employees were gathered, and the doors of the hall were tightly blocked by armed police. On June 9th, Foxconn decided to lay off divisional employees in the ILVG department in Shenzhen. These employees earned about 10,000 RMB or US $1,385 per month and had served Foxconn for more than 10 years. Chinese labor law says that laid-off employees are entitled to 15 to 20 months of compensation, which should be at least 150,000 RMB or more than 20,000 US each. However, Foxconn never intended to pay this compensation voluntarily, but chose to move these employees to other positions, depriving them of bonuses and overtime pay and paying them only basic salaries. The employees felt that this was actually a disguised way of forcing them to leave their jobs, rather than being laid off. There was no compensation for quitting the job on one's own accord. This one-sided decision caused strong dissatisfaction among Foxconn employees. The employees felt that if the company wanted them to leave, they should be compensated with N+1. N means that the employer has to pay 1 month of salary for every year the employee has worked. The employees gathered at the factory to defend their rights, shouting N+1, and there were at least hundreds of protesters. In the end, Foxconn agreed to the employees' proposed N+1 severance package. Now it's like this at night. The commandos are here. The door is blocked. No more people are allowed in. It's the same here. All commandos, waiting for the big boss to fix it. They're bloody coming with guns. What's the situation? Solve it now. It's already midnight. It's 12:14 a.m. The employees shout, N1, 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 N1. The Foxconn forced employees to leave the company on their own through disguised layoffs. The employees got the N1 payouts after protesting. Why is Foxconn laying off employees so frequently? In recent years, Apple is gradually moving its industrial chain to India. As Apple's largest foundry, Foxconn is naturally part of this relocation plan. In addition, it's probably also related to the decline of global electronics consumption, and Apple moving part of its orders to other Chinese companies. This is the new factory area of Shenzhen Foxconn, Longhua District. It once had 150,000 employees, and now there may be less than 30,000. The once busy scene at its North Gate.
Being an environmentally conscious company is not just good for the planet, but it's also
7 years ago, Elon Musk invested $50 million into something called Project Omega. Not many people noticed that.
外国人正在疯狂离开中国，你身边还能看到老外吗？分享一组惊人的数据啊，长居中国的老外呢正在急剧减少。过去10年，法国人减少40%，美国人减少23%，德国、日本、意大利呢也有不同程度的减少。作为我国最国际化的城市，上海11年呢还有20万老外，21年就只剩下16.3万了。望京作为北京最大的韩国人旅居点，曾经啊有10几万韩国人在此旅居，现如今呢可能就剩2万了。放眼全国，外国居民占比只剩了0.05%。比例呢，甚至还不如老挝、柬埔寨。
Since March 2023, the action of the Chinese government have commanded global attention. The arrest of 5 employees from the corporate due diligence company Mintz Group, questioning faced by management consulting firm Bain & Company in Shanghai, and an unexpected raid on information services provider Capvision in Suzhou, have put consulting firms in China under unprecedented scrutiny. This series of high-profile events has prompted deep reflection on Wall Street, leading them to reconsider their past perceptions of China and President Xi Jinping. Gradually, they have come to realize they may have misjudged the situation. The focus of Xi Jinping on personal power control at the cost of China's economic development has posed a danger not just to China but globally. The business environment in China has rapidly deteriorating, making it difficult for Wall Street to profit in the 60 trillion financial market. At this juncture, the Chinese Communist Party and Xi's proxies have dispatched numerous emissaries to Wall Street, hoping they will continue to invest in China. However, the Wall Street Mongols, now in a state of remorse and reflection, no longer have time to listen to the Communist Party lobbying. Hardly anyone is willing to side with the Chinese Communist Party or advocate for Xi Jinping, marking a significant shift in Wall Street's political stance as they begin to move away from China. This is a notable symbol of the new era. The world is starting to understand the true nature of the Communist Party of China. One of the iconic changes is a shift in the attitude of renowned American investor Ray Dalio. Since 1984, this investment titan has been full of enthusiasm for China, but after his visit to China in the spring of 2023, he was filled with concern. He fears that a Sino-US conflict may erupt within 18 months, bringing a shock to the global economy. He sees investors' enthusiasm waning and Chinese officials' focus shifting to Xi Jinping's new thought, neglecting the importance of economy and finance. He began to criticize Xi Jinping's leadership style, describing it as autocratic and egocentric, and believes that China has entered a planned economic model that is overly top-down, giving little room for grassroots staff to exercise their initiative. Therefore, he began to gradually withdraw from the Chinese market. This represents a significant shift for a seasoned investor like him. He and his investment team began to divest from Alibaba, Didi, JD.com, and other Chinese concept stocks, turning their investment sites to places like Singapore. While Xi Jinping may have hoped for Dalio to continue to praise China highly, Dalio pointed out the actual predicament China currently faces: real estate, debt issues, the weakening impact of COVID-19 related policies on the economy, strict regulation of tech companies, Sino-US conflict, deterioration of the global economic environment, and population problems. He considered these as barometers and indicators of China's economic development. These issues have made him pessimistic about China's prospects. he predicts that China's rapid economic growth and its position as a manufacturing powerhouse are a thing of the past, representing a widely held view in the international community. It is worth noting that both the entrepreneurial dialogue hosted by Chinese Premier Li Qiang and the Summer Davos Forum in Tianjin highlighted the waning enthusiasm of global investors for the Chinese market. In May, Li Qiang held a dialogue with entrepreneurs attended by representatives of 120 businesses from 20 countries. However, this was clearly smaller in scale than a similar meeting held with previous year under the chairmanship of former Premier Li Keqiang, which gathered 400 business representatives from 50 countries. At the Davos Forum in Tianjin, a noticeable drop in the number of international senior representatives was observed. The promotional approach of the forum also raised eyebrows. Prominent displays of President Xi Jinping's writings, ostensibly promoted by Li Qiang, aimed to position Xi's ideology as the guiding principle for the forum and global development. This was a jarring surprise to international delegates who had expected frank dialogue with Chinese policymakers and business figures, primarily discussing economic, technological, and environmental issues. The atmosphere on the ground had evidently changed. On the business front, Goldman Sachs, the global financial giant, has decided to suspend fundraising in the United States, pivoting instead to seek investors in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. This strategic shift partially stems from new investment review mechanisms imposed by the US on China, leaving North American investors increasingly wary of investing in China. Simultaneously, two of Canada's major pension funds have chosen to pause their direct investments in China. Prominent investors such as Warren Buffett have begun to scale back their investment in China, shifting their focus to Japan and other markets. Over the past year, Buffett has reduced his shares in BYD 11 times, bringing his stake to less than 9%. Industries once viewed as investment goldmines such as artificial intelligence have seen Western investment banks pulling out due to potential US sanctions against China's AI industry. Goldman Sachs, for example, relinquished its role as the IPO coordinator for Beijing for Paradigm Intelligence Technology Company in April, following the company's blacklisting by the US Department of Commerce in March. Sequoia Capital, having invested in China's AI industry through its Chinese subsidiary, chose to separate its Chinese operations from the parent company. Meanwhile, data suggests that returns of investment in Asian markets.
Do you want free money without working for it?
Raise your hand if you like free stuff. We were going to give away a free tube of the brand new 2023 Silver Eagle coins. Then we said, nah, make it 25 tubes.
I am now reading you an arrest warrant.
Why?
Be quiet. I'm reading you an arrest warrant. Do you hear me? Law enforcement is in progress.
Did I commit murder or arson?
No, but you violated the law.
What law did I violate?
The law of civil disputes. Don't act as if you don't care.
I'm not indifferent. I just want to know what's going on.
You are violating the law by not paying off your debts.
Let me interrupt you. You are arresting me in a public place like this, and people might think I murdered someone or set a fire.
I am reading you the warrant. You can't interrupt. Recently, police across China have begun what appears to be a unified campaign to arrest people who owe money. There is very little media coverage of this operation in China. Only news stories like this one are seen on major websites. It says that a man who owed 170 million yuan, or approximately 23 million US dollars, was pursued by the courts. The man was involved in a private loan dispute. After the court order, the man never complied and did not pay what was owed. On June 23, 2023, at 5 a.m., 2 levels of court enforcement officers, bailiffs, and notaries from Chengdu, Sichuan province, a total of over 40 people, went to the man's residence to make an arrest and seize the man's home possessions. The various details of this video indicate that the arrested individual doesn't appear to have owed a huge amount of money, but is probably a small average debtor. His case is probably more in line with the following inconspicuous news. In May 2023, 2 levels of courts and enforcement officers across Henan province joined forces to go around and arrest borrowers who were delinquent in their payments. One city deployed a total of 8 police vehicles and 51 enforcement officers in a coordinated enforcement operation. The report said, after a continuous 9-hour battle, 12 persons were detained, 2 arrested, 3 cases closed, 5 cases settled, and debt repayments totaling 35,000 yuan were enforced. 35,000 yuan, or US $4,000, is a very small amount. In other words, 14 people were arrested to settle a debt of US 4,000. It shows that the amount owed by each debtor isn't much. When divided by 14 people, the amount owed on average is roughly US $286. In another city in Henan province, one news report said, a special enforcement action detained 12 people and executed cases worth more than 300,000 yuan, or more than US 40,000. When spread over 12 people, each owes an average of more than US 3,300. The most successful case is won by the Fengcheng court. Its centralized enforcement action summoned 21 people, arrested 2, closed 14 cases, and enforced an amount of US 137,000, which is equivalent to about US 19,000 per individual. Why are the courts and police suddenly enthusiastic about civil disputes over loans? The headline of the news reads, helping enterprises alleviate their difficulties and solve livelihood problems. It seems that the Chinese government is troubled by the debt problem and worried about the difficulties of enterprises. Or perhaps the government and the judiciary are trying to deter people from defaulting on their debts. So, do the Chinese courts and police deserve credit for this action? Can they do their part to solve China's debt problem? Let's look at the debt crisis facing the Red regime. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that Chinese companies, people, and local governments have been borrowing heavily for years, with a total credit from non-financial institutions of about US 50 trillion. That revenue is now being used to pay off debt rather than to spend or invest, which will weigh heavily on China's economic growth for a long time to come. China has been borrowing for years to fund everything from cross-sea bridges to new residential projects, and has now reached what economists refer to as the long deleveraging phase, where revenues are used to pay off debt rather than being spent on consumption or investment. According to the Bank for International Settlements, BIS, China's non-financial sector credit totaled US 49.9 trillion in September 2022, more than 3 times what it was 10 years ago. BIS data also showed that China's total debt to gross domestic product, GDP, was 295% in September of 2022, exceeding the US total debt to GDP of 257% and the Eurozone total debt to GDP average of 258%. The Wall Street Journal report pointed out that China's central government debt is relatively low as a percentage of GDP, and this debt comes mainly from households, private enterprises, and local governments. Marco Papik, chief strategist at asset management firm Clock Tower Group, said the Chinese household's debt is now nearly 110% of disposable income, which is close to the level of US household debt around the time of the global financial crisis. The Chinese government's relaxation of anti-epidemic measures was expected to boost the economy through domestic spending, but so far people haven't spent much. Despite the low interest rates in China, people are eager to pay off their mortgages. Also, people now save up cash instead of borrowing in response to heavy debt. The Chinese government is also concerned about the lack of action by businesses. According to official Chinese data, private investment in China grew by only 0.4% in the first 4 months of 2023 compared to the same period last year. According to the statistics of the China Index Research Institute, the area of land sold in 300 cities China in the first 5 months of 2023 decreased by 26% compared to the same period last year. Among them, in the single month of May, the planned area of land transactions in 300 cities dropped by nearly 40% year-on-year, and the amount of land premiums for various types of land was 228.495 billion yuan, down 70.77% year-on-year. All these show that investment is decreasing. It may seem that the CCP is doing some good for individuals or businesses using coercive measures to solve the problem of private borrowing, targeting small debts ranging from US 200 to 20,000. The question is, who in China wants to go into debt? Let's take a look at the voices of people who have defaulted on their debts.
I'm in debt to the tune of US $1.63 million, and those in debt like me probably have trouble sleeping all night too. As a former outstanding businesswoman and the boss of a corporation, I have now become a loser that everyone despises. I feel deeply what it means to live a life that's worse than death, and what it means to spend every day like a year. Every waking moment, I'm thinking about how to pay back the money. My children's school fees and living expenses, where would they come from? I started to invest blindly in 2017. I never thought of the big environment and its impact on me, which is simply beyond me. My projects are exploding all over the place. Bam! I was blown from the sky to the bottom. All my 7 houses and all my cars were lost, and all my debts are overdue across the board.
They say everyone should go home for the new year, whether they have money or not, but I don't have the chance to go home for the new year. For the first time in my life, I spent the new year alone. After 3 years of living with a mask, chip shortage, export disruptions, and rising raw material prices, in order to maintain the normal operation of my factory, I tried to tear down the east wall to mend the west wall. Finally, the factory closed down, and I'm $830,000 in debt. I sold everything I could, and now I have nothing left. When I think of the expectant eyes of my elderly parents, I feel a pang in my heart. Other people have family reunions, but I'm in the middle of the tribulation. I used to drive luxury cars and be a boss, but now I'm on the streets. It's early in the morning, and I can't sleep. I can't sleep at night. I'm also closing down my company, and I'm in a particularly tough spot. I really can't stand it anymore. Every day, many people are pressing me for money. You know what? I owe other people. People come to me every day to press me to pay. But I can't get any money back from those who owe me. I now owe $300,000.
Now, a staggering number of people are at risk of having their homes repossessed and being saddled with huge amounts of debt.
My friend's home was in foreclosure today, and she was crying on the phone with me. I'm very sad for her. I don't know if you've been paying attention to a set of statistics. This year, experts predict that 40 million homes nationwide would miss their mortgage payments. 10 million homes would become foreclosed. Now, whether you have money or not, if you don't really need a home, I suggest you don't buy one. I didn't buy it myself. I was ready to buy in my hometown, Hunan Province, 2 years ago, but when I saw the economy was bad, I didn't buy any. My friend paid 2.4 million yuan, or $330,000 for this home, and made payments for 5 years. Now the foreclosure sale had it sold for 1.8 million yuan, or US $248,000. Not only has she lost her home, she lost all the interest she paid in the past 5 years, and she still owes the bank $25,000. Isn't this tragic?
In addition to the huge burden of a mortgage, many other factors push the average family into desperation, such as China's ridiculous healthcare system.
A hospital's one-day turnover is 60 million yuan, or US $8.29 million. Can you imagine that? A few days ago, the hospital affiliated with Zhengzhou University announced in high profile on its website that the turnover of a certain year was more than $3 billion. which translates into one-day revenue of 8.29 million US dollars. It's almost a money printing machine now. Behind this figure are many Chinese.
I'm gonna stop it right here. Now, this is in China, but why I'm showing China? Because they have a lot of imports that come here to America and other places in the world, and so they businesses, big and small, in Chinatown, it's going to affect Chinatowns all over America. Some of these people, that some got money, but the ones that got money, you know, if they got relatives and they got to get out of debt, whatever, hey, they better settle it, or else. See, you know, China and some of these citizens have done some things over the world, man, and that they went over there in Africa and the Caribbean buying them stuff, trying to be the ultimate. They wanted to be the second thing up under Asian supremacy. But see, Asian supremacy, which they almost hold the title, is coming down. It's coming down. Now, I don't know if any Asian Americans know this, but anybody's from parents is from China and got relatives still in China, this is what they're going through in their country right now. So, how does it connect to the rest of us people? Their restaurants, nail shop, all their stuff that they get, and there are other banks that other Asians and probably the Vietnamese community probably go to some of them, and some other Asian groups go to their banks, and they owe a debt. You know what I'm saying? So black people, how does it affect you? How does it affect you? If you don't shop in their businesses and where they're eating their restaurant, it's coming back to them. It's gonna hurt them here. If if some of them want to be racist, it's gonna slap them right back in the face. And I ain't show you in the other video. They have them sleeping on the streets like you see in Argentina and other places, even here in America. They got them in China sleeping. They sleeping homeless. The people sleeping on the street. And you see what's going on. But I just wanted to show this video. But this is the backlash. But see, now, when you do dirt to us, we one of the groups of people, it's coming back on you. But in a grander scale. It's a grander scale that even the white European groups are pulling out. And of course it's because of this thing with, economic thing, but it's bigger than that. And that COVID and all that other stuff that happened was related to that. See, they get imports and stuff, so when they come to their restaurants and they come to their stores, all that stuff is being shipped over here. You, the consumer, are buying their product. See, the money got to go around. That's why Phil was saying you can shut them down overnight. The China is about to go into a third world collision. Their monetary power is falling. Their monetary power is falling. Their kingdom is falling. You see all the stores, all the restaurants, the malls, all that stuff coming from China. Even the major companies pull it out of China. Foxconn, Apple, which is a division of Apple, pulled out of China. And these are the people that go around. Some of these people go around with a superiority attitude when they come into black lands. But they can't think of smart enough how to keep it going. You see how if we can work things out, how we don't have to borrow, and that's why they always want other countries to borrow from them, like some of those. African countries over on the continent of Africa. because they owe a debt to whoever China owed a debt to. See how it hits at the top? So yeah. But see, now how to circle around to affirmative action? It's going to affect them. Because they got people that's coming over here. Got people that's here. See, in white supremacy, like these dudes finish it off. See why you get the honorary white supremacist ones like that young man did, and that woman did. Her people suffering back in China. Both Chinese immigrants. So you know they got relatives over there. That's suffering right now. They in the class, but they don't tell you that. And I hope you guys like this video. Share, like, and subscribe. But yeah. See, what you do to God's people, to do to the lesser of the people. And remember, when you go over there and call them people over in Africa monkeys and stuff like that, and some of you be doing some shady stuff, now it's coming back on you. Some of your people, now you experience it in your homeland. Now the ones you go over there and you invade their property, you invade their land and everything. China's getting their butt whooped, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody don't want now. Higher big people and corporations don't want to deal with them now. You hear what happened? One of the biggest companies going to, now they're gonna go to India and Japan. But this all started. How does it affect? Because some they people here in America, and see, they got it. They kind of had it made here, but they really ain't gonna have it made now. And if they go back to China, they in trouble. And they probably got relatives over there right now that's suffering as we speak. Alright then, ladies and gentlemen, but I just want to share this video with you and black people. That this is because we're one of the reasons why the scriptures in the Bible, why they mess with us. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the many reasons why. It's on a natural scale. But you see, when you ever heard the saying goes, before I sign out, that God don't like ugly. God don't like ugly. What some of them they done. They done something to His word, and they done something to His people. Now He said, I'm going to take their kingdom. Now He's taking their kingdom down. And entitlement behind down. They're going to probably be like, well, the other ones that's not doing so, other Asian nations, and some who don't have the agility of China, because they feel like they have a superior complex anyway. They do. So yeah, but you control the power of your dollar. That's how does it run? Because when the community goes, that helps them pay off their debt. They owed it to them banks. Because the banks landed over here. The banks gotta be sending money to some of these Asian businesses over here. But now their banks is over there struggling. Ain't that something? It's gonna affect over here. Especially if it ain't affected to the Asian business already over here. In Chinatown and them other places. If it is now, I know they people probably crying everything back there and telling what's going on with the government and everything, with the whole thing. They having a fit. Why they think that they're superior to you? Ain't that something? God don't like ugly, and they reap what they sow. They sow it in Jamaica. They sow in the continent of Africa. They sow in poor neighborhoods here, and now they reaping. And some of these people don't do right when they go over there anyway. They don't feed you the right food, like Phil said. Some of you go into the land and discriminate against the natives. But it's come back in full circle, right? But see, some of their white counterparts is pulling away from them. Who they look to us as the gods of economic and class and hierarchy. Ain't that something? Ooh boy, look this is a shift, and that's just one of the nations, and then there's a couple other countries going through a shift like this too. The next one is Lebanon. I might have to show you a video of what's going on with that, and somehow what happened to some Kenyan women over in Lebanon. All right then, but I'll make a video down the road about that. But see, now they're suffering for what they done to God's people, and now it's come back on them. It's come back around, and now it's hurting their economy. So, as I say, God don't like ugly. Take care.